These are the cutters on the General Electric skate sharpener. It's a handheld unit. Kind of looks egg-shaped like this. There's two versions. Anyways, the original version uses a cutter with an 8mm radius of hollow, and this has got one about 10mm, roughly 5/16, roughly 3/8 inch radius. And this is the original one. This is the one that came out later. And I'll zoom in on the actual Carbaloy cutters there. These are hardened. You can rotate it around, so you use all the edge and you flip it over, use the other side. Same thing with the original one here. These were either made in Detroit. I think the whole unit was made in Toronto. Now, I'm not sure if Carbaloy, General Electric Carbaloy, had a unit in Canada or not, but they had a unit on 8 Mile Road. And that's just what the cutters look like. So this is the original one unit. You can go in here, undo this screw here like this. You can rotate the cutter around to get to a different area if it's worn, and you can tighten it back up like this. This is the Model B. Same thing goes. You can go in here with the screwdriver, loosen this up, and rotate this around, retighten it up. You can also flip this around the other side. You can use both sides. So this is the B unit, and that's the original one. Now, the original one here weighs 223 grams. The Model B weighs 263. The cutter is about 4 grams. So what they changed is it's got more mass up here in the front, plus you got the added weight of the spring on there. So what they did is this one has got a spring in here, whereas the old one doesn't. And then the angle of the cutter has changed radically. This looks like it's got about maybe a 10 or 15 degree angle to the blade. This one here's got just about almost a 45 degree angle to the blade. So they got a bigger cutter on the newer one, and the angles changed radically. It's got a more radius of hollow is less. And then the old one, you have to carry a screwdriver with you to change the size. You've got to go put this in here, rotate this around like this, and then loosen this up to change the size on here. Rotate it around. It's got different slots for different skate sizes. The newer one, you can go through and pull this out. It's got a spring that's down in there. So you can pull this out to change the skate size. So this one is more convenient because you don't have to carry a screwdriver with you. It's a little bit heavier, extra 40 grams more. You can tell the difference if you want to look at one on an auction. This one's got this curve from the side. This has got kind of a different snout on it. This part here in the bottom is probably the same for both of them. Now you can use these on figure skates all the way to hockey skates for the narrow widths on there. So like in the other video I mentioned that like a hockey skate here has got a blade generally about 3 millimeters thick, so you can find which one will fit here. And I'll use this one since it's easy to do. You just find the correct width. You don't want to have too much play in there. So that will not fit. So I'll go to this one. And then you take this and go from the front of the skate to the back. And this is generally used just as a touch-up. So this is cutting, basically this is a cutter that you use in machining, machine shop cutter. So it's actually cutting an edge on there. It actually works pretty well. I mean, it's not an abrasive in the sense this is actually a cutter. and that's from 50 years ago. 1963 is when the date is on the box. The other one, of course, you got to use a screwdriver to undo this. The boxes on here, if you're a collector, we'll just zoom back. The original one's got GE Carbaloy skate sharpener on it. Sharpen your own skates, made in Canada. Carbaloy section. It's got it in French. And the newer one comes in a box. It's got less advertising for Carbaloy. It just says skate sharpener. There it is, Model B. Canadian Electric, General Electric, Toronto. Patented 1963. One of these I saw, maybe it was on eBay or something else, or maybe one I had, it was, I think it was $2.98 in the 60s, what this cost. But then, that's like saying probably about 40 bucks today. This is a rough estimate. 30 to 40. Here's the instructions for the original one, showing it being used on a tube skate. It's got it in French. And then the newer one says Model B on here. Guide slot, guide body, cutting disc in the guard. It says patented in Canada in 1963. But these were vogue when tube skates were vogue, so they were used in an era more of a touch-up device. They weren't really to start from scratch, but if you had a pair of tube skates and you wanted to sharpen them just to keep it sharp, that's what the purpose of these are. Just like the ones that are sold today, or the ancient Bergman from 100 years ago, which has got a grindstone. It's not a bad unit in the sense that it's nice and compact. It doesn't have anything to catch in a skate bag or something like that. So it's interesting though that the angle, they changed it radically between the two on that. Went from say 10 degrees to almost probably 40 to 45. They got that cutter really at an angle there. This one weighs more. And then practically what you're going to get for radius to hollow is going to be larger than these numbers on here. It's just because of the nature of the beast that when you've got this on here, you can find the slot that's got the tightest fit. It's still going to have a little bit of rock in it. So you want to keep this, you don't want to rock this back and forth very much, but if you cut this, the actual measured radius of hollow probably going to be like probably 10% more than that if I just had to pull a number out of my guess engineering wise. So this is the minimum it could be if this was held and it wasn't rotated, but you've got some back and forth slop through here. So with a grain of salt, assume this may be 9 and 11 millimeters practically if you wanted to measure it. Can't be, probably not more than that, but there's the two cutters, Model B and the original one. And they were made, when these were marketed, they were made generally for carbon steel blades. This is a carbon steel, which probably machines better compared to stainless. See, that one won't fit. So I'm going to go through and try this one. Won't fit. There you go. Now you got some shavings here. And this is a blade that's never been sharpened before. So it's not intended for that. It's designed to do touch-up work. And you really wouldn't want to use that on a new pair of skates unless you really were desperate or something. This is something designed to basically do a touch-up in the field when you've already got them sharpened, you've lost an edge. That's a CCM XS release system. So it's in a totally different era. Okay, a final note here I just realized here is that because this cutter here is at a 45-degree angle on here, when it's over here like this, it's going to actually be less than 10 millimeters. If you think about having a circle like this, then you look at it here, you have an ellipse. This actually, radius of curvature looks down here like this to be even shorter. So because this is at an angle, it's going to be a little bit less than 10. So the difference between these two is probably not really that much in a practical statement. This one here, because it's got just a slight angle, is probably close to this. This has got a 45 degrees, so my take is this is probably even less. So practically they're about probably close to the same radius of hollow that they cut on here, because these numbers I was using here for the radius of hollow would be if this was straight on and not at a canted angle. And practically here, this is not a very big angle, so the cosine of that is not that much. But here you've got a lot more because it's turned at a 45 degrees. So these actually may be practically about the same radius of hollow, and maybe that's why they went to a bigger piece here, because then you've got a bigger wear edge on here. It probably lasts longer. So practically the main difference between these two is this got the spring loaded, easy to change without a screwdriver. And I think the difference in the cutters is a lot less than I think, because this is at an angle on here like this.